All right, good evening, everybody. It is 6:01, and this is the Curriculum and Instruction Committee meeting. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mr. Rathgeb is going to be a little bit late, but he'll be joining us soon. If we can go around the table and everybody on the committee just please state their names.
Carol Bites.
Dane O'Neil.
Connor Kurtz.
Rob Hurley.
And we have some administrators here. If you wouldn't mind stating your names for the record.
Jenny Archroad. Melanie Heffner.
We have one member of the public. Moving on to old business, curriculum writing and tracking software. I know this is something we brought up and there was a lot of interest from the administration about moving in this direction and keeping track of our curricula through electronic means.
Okay, just to give you a rough update on where we're at with this, we are taking a look at different curriculum software. Right now, this is the curriculum connector. It's one of about 3 different ones we're looking at. This is the one we're kind of leaning towards at the moment. Basically, what it allows us to do is it allows us to give us a public version of the software so people have access to it. It's easy for us to edit. It's easy for teachers to access. It's an ease of use type of thing. The one you can see it also has many other features which we can tie in, including lesson planning. Right now, we do our lesson planning in a variety of different means, primarily using OneNote. It's kind of a Jimmy rig situation. Allows us to tie lesson planning directly to the curriculum. Also gives us access to, when you look at standards that are statewide, it'll give us access to lessons that other teachers will get access to other lessons that other teachers have created that relate to particular standards. So as well, there's a curricular piece which is up here, but it also gives us some smaller pieces right down there. The one thing that is a concern from talking to these guys in greater depth, and we can certainly hammer down with all vendors in terms of pricing. This is not cheap, guys, when you look at this. We're looking at a startup fee of about $15,000 in the first year to get going on the software, and then we're looking at about $5,000 to $10,000 on a yearly basis. I think we do need to take a look at that in context of our budget as we go through the budget process before we make a formal, final proposal, whether the cost benefit versus what we might have to eliminate in either software or other things. Clearly, we need to come up with a mechanism that's more efficient in terms of keeping our curriculum and giving our teachers access to the curriculum and our principals access to the curriculum. But the question is, what's the best cost-benefit use of our resources as we do that too?
Let me jump in for a second here. The way I see this discussion, it's not about this particular program. This is more of just a model of something we'd like to do. This is more of a jumping off point to talk about the features we want and what we want to accomplish. There are a few things I'm looking to get out of working this way. One is to keep track of our curriculum, because I have this theory when I was looking through the filing cabinet upstairs with our paper curriculum in it, that once a curriculum is written and approved by the board, unless that curriculum is constantly referenced, you're going to slip from it. You're not going to be able to be as faithful as you could to the curriculum if it's never referenced, if it's just collecting dust somewhere. So if we get these more accessible, I think our teachers will be able to reference more routinely how their lesson plans align with the curriculum. Additionally, if we get it to become public, I think the public will hold us accountable as a board and as a district and as a faculty to make sure that the most up-to-date information is being taught. And if a piece of curriculum isn't updated for 5 years, they'll be able to come to the meeting and say, why isn't this been updated? And we'll have to give them an answer. So I think it's important for accountability purposes. I am concerned by the pricing you mentioned, because essentially all I want to do is have a way for us to track where we're going, where we've been, and let the public see it.
Yep.
And if we had a system figured out internally, I think we'd be able to do that. If we had a standard model for our curriculum, this is what the file looks like, this is the title, these are the objectives, these are like what your standard curriculum looks like, and then we were able to upload to the website, almost like we did with our policies, The downside of that is, of course, that it would require us to maintain it, and we'd have to develop the infrastructure to do it. But I don't really see that being worth $15,000 plus a $5,000 yearly subscription. And it would be nice if there were some type of consortium almost of public schools that were able to develop a system for free or for a very negligible cost. It almost seems something like the BCIU, if only they had a way to do this and they could dedicate some resources, because this is something that all school districts need, really. It's not just us. It would also be interesting if there were a way for teachers to go through and say, this is where we are, these are the objectives we've covered already, so parents know, hey, this is what's being taught in the classroom, this is what we're going to learn next month, and they could prepare, they could orient their home learning to reflect that. I don't know. Thank you for this research. Does anybody else have any thoughts? I don't know what value this is, but...
Is this, would we consider the SunGuard considered the creme de la creme of curriculum writing software?
We looked at basically three different ones, and one of the advantages of this is it plays very nicely. We use eSchool for our school. We keep track of the student address, their needs, things like that. This plays very nice from a technology standpoint with the other software that we currently have. That's one of the big advantages here.
So it would be the creme de la creme for DB. Right?
What's that?
That would be like
integrate
the best one.
It would for us and ours because the system that we're currently using.
I always like to start with the best and then see what we can live with.
Well, when you say the best, I don't know, this integrates well, and they integrate the best.
I mean ideal. I don't mean the best. I mean ideal. Is that what
okay.
the
We do think this is good software. We have an administrator who has experience using this particular software, and so we do think it's good software also. It also happens to integrate very, like I said, it's a SunGuard, and it does integrate directly with eSchool. So that's the major advantages you're looking at beyond the academic pieces.
Could we argue that this software, and I truly have no agenda here, could we argue that using software like this would save us and curriculum writers time? Because I know we pay for the teams. Is there a cost, trade-off if you're going with a software in general?
I think once you get the learning curve of using the software and getting the full functionality out of the software, I think it'll help a little bit time-wise. It simplifies things. It makes it quicker. It's something that might take 2 hours, maybe.
I want to interrupt and object a little bit because currently, when curriculum is written, we approve it and it goes into a file somewhere. Right?
Well, right now, but we're also working on it, and Mary Beth started doing this. We're starting to keep it digitally also. And
so digital files.
Yeah,
so we're not typing them anymore. So.
Right. So that's what I'm saying.
I have no agenda. I'm just trying to clear the air here. I'm just trying to look at this the right way.
I just want to get to what are we trying to get out of this is more what I'm trying to ascertain here, and what is the value of the objective we're trying to reach.
Excuse me a minute. And of the other two that you looked at, what was the
this is
pricing?
The price. We didn't get that far with the other companies on that because this is the one we were really focused on. Number one, because we had a comfort level with some of our administration. Number two, it's a SunGuard thing, and it ties directly with eSchool, which is really a linchpin of this particular piece.
Would you know if this is the same software that Phoenixville Area School District
uses?
Yes,
it is.
And do you think it'd be possible to get the vendors in to do demos to the committee, like 10, 15
I'm sure they're
demos?
more than willing to do that type of thing, yes.
Okay, so maybe I'm going to suggest that we get the pricing on all three versions and we get a full demonstration and we can see what the trade-offs are in the pricing.
Yeah, and I think we need to look at that, and I think we need to compare that against, would we rather have a teacher at the end of the day, or would we rather have software? I'd rather have a teacher.
To be honest with you, I'm in the business. I'm used to paying money for good software. That price doesn't worry me. I think it's probably a well-spent $20,000 to get it up and running, 15, 20 grand.
Well,
but I would, I'd be able to make that argument if it's really a coherent argument.
I am going to put my cards on the table here. I think that we may have, and correct me, administration, if I'm wrong. I think we may have neglected curriculum in previous years at the expense of, or rather, we had our budget issues, and a determination was made that we shouldn't be writing curriculum because it costs more, and the board may have determined that it just wasn't an expense we wanted to bear at the time. Is that fair?
I think it's a fair characterization.
Okay. Yeah, and obviously that was not wise because now we have to go back.
Benefit from the software. We wouldn't even bother bringing this forward if we didn't think there was a benefit to this.
It's part of the we're
It
trying
will
to
help
do
with
the 21st
communication
century.
with the teachers also
Right.
about what they're, especially new teachers. It'll be particularly
I'd love
helpful.
to continue.
I don't know. I'd be interested to know when that decision really was made to not do that, because I was unaware that we really weren't. We hear about curriculum writing all the time, and occasionally we approve these things. But when I just came in one day and went through that filing cabinet upstairs, I was just so surprised to see how outdated some of our materials were. And having gone through the school system, I looked at some of the classes I took in high school, and the curriculum that's on the books was not what the class that wasn't included in the syllabus. There were some major differences. So I really think those need to be reconciled, and I think that's important, because we could have the best teachers in the world or the worst teachers in the world, but if they're not faithful to the curriculum, and it's through no fault of their own, it's incumbent upon all of us as a district to make sure that we're operating in sync, and this could be one way to do it.
May I add something?
Yeah, absolutely.
This software, from my understanding, also allows you to differentiate what you're sharing with your staff
Right.
and then with what you're
Public
sharing with
and
the
all,
public.
yeah.
So that's another advantage.
Mr. Kurtz, you and I actually saw a
Yeah.
demonstration of that.
I have a question as it relates to
Thank you.
actually, thank you for
Reminding
that.
us of that.
Our teachers, at least this is how I believe it works, they are, during the school day, they're with students. They're not going to have time to go in and consult this system if we have it to look. This would have to be, I guess, during their planning period when they're writing,
period every day.
when they write their
And
lesson plans.
That's when they would be referencing software like
Okay,
this.
all right. If we were to decide to move forward in this direction, whether it's with Curriculum Connector or with another program, when would it be ready? Next
Well,
year?
I think we would be looking at an implementation cycle of next year on this, because we put it in this coming year's budget, and then we would start our implementation process for next year. We take our existing curriculums that we have and start uploading them to a system like this and kind of work from there. So
I'm interested in hearing both from you and Mrs. Kiesel, how valuable would this be in comparison to other things? If we had a certain pot of money, which we do, would you invest in this?
and I think curriculum, having a guaranteed and viable curriculum is an essential part of a good school district. I think that's what is actually taught in the classroom is the most important thing, not necessarily what's on a document, but this helps us ensure that what's on this document is actually what's instructed
So is that a yes?
in the classroom. So yes.
Okay.
That's a long answer.
Could it affect our grade schools rating? Or
Great
our
schools
ratings
is
out there?
it's just people going online and putting stuff in there.
Okay.
When
Are
you
there
talk
any
about there are rating other types of ratings like
Do they look at
U.S.
things
News
like
and
that?
World Report
Yeah,
does
yeah,
a thing
yeah.
for high schools where they rank
Strength, the
them
actual
on various-
strength of your curriculum.
Yeah.
Well, we can't
based
make-
on the rating or no?
Yeah, so
It's not probably not a consideration. in
What
that.
I want
it's
to
about
do,
results for the student learning, not what's on the
Okay.
paper. It's what do the students learn, and ultimately that's how those things come about.
what really matters is there needs to be a connection between the curriculum and what's taught in the classrooms.
I think so.
And if we can make this information more directly accessible for our staff, I think we establish a stronger bond between what the curriculum is and what the lesson plans are.
Anyway, that's where we're at on that particular thing, just as an update. That'll
Right.
kind of give you an idea where we're at on the process on that.
Can we direct the administration, authorize them to keep moving forward on this? Is there any
Do you want
objection?
public comment on this right now?
Well, at the end of the meeting, if there is, but we have to keep moving. Is there, are we fine giving the administration the go-ahead, the green light? All right.
Yes.
Keep moving.
Keep moving on that, and yeah, let's keep us updated. Next up is personal financial literacy for all Daniel Boone students. This is something I brought up last meeting. I think it would be beneficial for every Daniel Boone student, whether you're in remedial math or whether you're in AP physics or AP geometry, whatever we have, to know when you graduate Daniel Boone, you should know how to balance a checkbook. You should know the difference between compound interest and simple interest. You should know the benefit and the value of investing $200 every month and how that could reap rewards in retirement. But just basic financial pieces. I mean, the power, if you
Difference
start...
between a debit card and a credit card.
Right, exactly. I mean, if you start saving $100 a month when you're 18 years old, by the time you're 70, and if you invest that at a 7% return each year, which is the average for the stock market, you'll have a pretty nice nest egg. These things, I think all of our students need to know. And how can we make that happen.
Let me talk to you about a few things. Let me talk to you about kind of where we're at in Daniel Boone and where some things are happening, and let me talk about a little bit of the research I've done on this particular topic and what some other school districts are doing and maybe how the two apply. Certainly, and we want to ultimately make some decisions in regards to this. First, if you look at the high school level, and that's where we'll focus most of this, there is a course called Financial Management at the high school itself. You can see it. This is the teacher syllabus here, and I'll pass that around to you so you can see it. And then this is very brief. It's just their syllabus they hand out to the kids. That is an elective course. Every student does not get that, and it is business ed credits. So the student could take that class. They could take other classes too, and like Microsoft Word, and high school principals can interpret it if they want in terms of what the other classes are they could take. But it is an elective class that we currently have. That is the current, you can see what the syllabus is, what its objectives is for the course itself. Now, I want you to compare that, and I took some time. I called in the Neshaminy School District, and I spoke to one of their curriculum director, and I also talked to their department chair. They have partnered and reached out with the Keys to Financial Success program, and I'll pass all this stuff around if you'd like to take a look at it. And this is free curriculum. Pass it around. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
That's the one they partner with the Fed.
Yeah, that's the one that the Fed brought in. And I talked to them also. I reached out and I talked to them. It is free curriculum. What they do, it appears to be much more robust than what we have, although there is some overlap and there's some things in addition that what we do as a district. There is tons of materials. They offer free training for teachers, which is nice. I like that word. They offer free training during the summer months for teachers. There's lots of resources they offer. We do have some of the topics certainly within what we do. I think there's some value to some of the things looking at theirs, and there's actually a syllabus if you look into the teacher's manual itself. They have there. It's about 52 lessons or so. It's not an entire year course. It's more of a semester course that they have. When I reached out to the Neshaminy, they're very pleased with the course itself. However, they did what I'm talking about right here. They sent their teachers to training, and then they integrated the additional free materials and stuff they had there with this good stuff that they were doing for their entire course. Yeah. Now, they do not, as you're proposing, they do not make that a mandate. It's not a mandated course. It is an elective course.
I want to say that's not what I'm proposing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah. I'm saying that it shouldn't be a course. I'm not looking to have a course. I'm looking for a week in your math class, senior year, no matter what math class you take, where you learn about interest, where you learn about balancing a checkbook, the basics of finance. Not like this, not the history of the first central bank of the United States.
Yeah, that's really what that course is about. That's not what that's about. It's really about like investing, and I won't say check writing, but it's about those. That's what you'll see in that type of thing. That's based upon the standards, the national standards of teaching finance to kids. That's what they base that course on. In terms of how we infuse it into our curriculum, you can see, and I'll let the principals talk to this one, but I know at the middle level they do in their family and consumer science classes, they have an entire unit on financial management where they're doing those types of things with shopping and things of that nature. I also know at the elementary level in their mathematics classes, like when you do about counting coins, you do it about, when you're looking at like the open-ended questions, there's constantly, and that's like the word problem types of things, there's a constant theme of finances and money that goes, it's integrated throughout the curriculum and what they do per se. So there's a couple different approaches we've taken as a district. Like I said, we do have a course called Financial Management, which kids can take. We can certainly add to that and improve that. I think we're all striving, including the teachers, to do that.
Right. I'm saying I don't think this should necessarily be a course. I think this is something that should be integrated into our math curriculum, whether it's 11th grade or 12th grade. Everybody needs to know how to borrow money responsibly. You shouldn't have to take a course to learn that. It should be, if you're graduating from a public school system in the United States, you should know the basics of how to handle your household budget.
I just can't imagine them taking time from that math curriculum to teach this. I
you don't
can't
think,
see the connection.
You really don't
I
think
the students would really supplement the math training to start integrating.
But
right? 'Cause this is
I have an honest
very-
question for you, Mrs. Bites. What do you think is more beneficial for our students graduating from Daniel Boone? If they knew how to form a budget, I think that is more approximate issue for them than necessarily going in and doing calculus.
I think the math training is critical. It should be compromised, and the kids who struggle with math and need time in the math class, and you're going to try to cover this stuff in a week, I think that's a big mistake, and I think it's not standard protocol. We're talking about a program here that's a curriculum that's based on the national standards for students.
Right, and we can have a program. Well, how would you approach
What lesson are you
this?
going to give up in the math classes to have a week on interest
Yeah.
or a week on balancing a checkbook? Think about it.
Well, I would also say that
Unless
for
you're
interest,
gonna say-
there's percentages. You're looking at percent. You're looking at calculating return on investment. There's compound. It's all math. But
Cross-curricular activities, lessons would be a really good way to
Right.
support the personal finance course.
Maybe we could have-
This
here's an
is
idea.
not- What's easy for you and I to learn balancing a checkbook, I tried to teach it
Right.
immaculate. It's really a struggle for them because they don't have real-world knowledge of it yet.
here's a different idea. What if we were to, instead of having it be a formal part of a course, what if we were to have something like Personal Finance Week, where it just, everything you do pretty much that week is steeped in history. We're learning about the history of markets. We're learning about the history of the U.S. banking system. In math, we're learning about some of these things. We're adding to the curriculum. At lunch, maybe we'll have items that are themed to go along. It would be a celebration rather than...
That's a burden on the school. But
You think a celebration is a burden?
If this is the administration's recommendation, I'm inclined to go with the administration.
Okay. I disagree. I think this is very important. I think every student graduating from Daniel Boone should have enough of an understanding how to go out in the world, and if we were to just kick them out the door at graduation and they were to be on their own, they should know how to do some very
I'd like
basic
to make it
things.
a mandatory class. I'd like financial management to be, personal management, financial management to be a mandatory class.
Like a whole year-long class? Because if we're doing
Is
that,
this
we're
a
cutting
half
off
year
somewhere
semester?
else.
Financial management, Mr. Stamey's class?
That curriculum right there is a half-year class. Mr.
What you're saying
Stamey-
is this could be integrated
Mr.
into
Stamey's
this
class is a full-year class, is my understanding.
four-year class.
Because if you're doing that, you're cutting off another 4-year class that a student could have been taking.
Well,
So
by
it's all,
12th grade, I understand they're looking to fill their schedules anyway.
there's a thought maybe
I would
if
like
you...
the administration to make a recommendation.
Is there any other, is this something other board committee members, how do we feel specifically about any way on this topic, or Mr. McKnight?
In addition to what Mr. Hurley said, that there is, in the Valley Consumer Science Department, students required, as part of the requirement for graduation. So there are two courses that they usually take. One is nutritional science. The other is the consumer finance course, which really hits on the things that they talk about: money managers, consumer needs, comparison shopping, credit savings, financial services. So about half our kids take that as a ninth grade course, and the other half choose nutritional science. So that's in play. And
We can use that. Okay.
More along the lines of what Mr. Hurley said, we have a slot. We're in a position, I think, now in high school where everything is a course in, a course out. Because we can't add more courses, we just don't have the staffing to do it. So it's a shift.
I don't want to extrapolate from an anecdote, because I know that could be dangerous. At least Mr. Ocasio would probably agree, being a statistician himself. When I was taking my senior year political science and economics, we spent about 2 weeks playing a stock market game. And really, it didn't reinforce we didn't learn anything about investing. It was all about shifting money around in hope of earning a quick profit. And of course, that didn't work out for most kids in the class. Some did, but most didn't. But there was never any overarching, this isn't how you invest. It was a game. And I think it sent the wrong message. And I want to avoid doing that. And if we can teach the proper way to do these things, the prudent ways to handle your money, I think all of our students would benefit. And, maybe our school districts would benefit. We don't go around spending money we don't have. And maybe some future government leaders would come out of Daniel Boone High School better off, and our country would be better off. I don't know. But I think this is just crucial. And if we can integrate it into what we already have, that's great. And I know that this is a common theme if you read, like for example, even the New York Times business section, they decry the level of financial literacy in this country among adults. And I think as leaders of a school system, we need to do what we can to correct that for the next generation.
So I'd be interested in hearing how the administration recommends we integrate the essence of this, or as much as possible, into the current curriculum that is required. I heard a couple of good things about FCS, financial consumer science. You're teaching some of this. You're teaching some of it in nutritional science.
Well, the course is taught in consumer science, consumer finance. So it's taught by Mrs. Wallace, our consumer science teacher. The other course that Mr. Hurley is referring to is the course taught by Mr. Stamos. So it's taught in two different places in the high school.
So I'm wondering, maybe you can go through those courses, and maybe they could each be, nutrition support. Is that a full year?
They're half year courses.
So they are half.
They are.
So are they required to take both?
They're not. If you look at the requirements to graduate, so it's not, they don't have to take both. They only need it. Some students do take more than half the credit in consumer science.
So what do they swap out for the next? So they're thinking half year. What's the next?
So sometimes they have study hall. Sometimes they have another half credit to be an art course.
So we don't. You're saying if we don't have enough teachers to do what we require, both not enough.
Correct.
What if we took the nutrition class and we took the finance class and we merged them? So you still have a half credit course, but now you're covering nutrition and finance, which are both valuable things. What if we did that?
I think it takes some curriculum work.
Yeah. I mean, every student should know how to eat healthy, and every student should know how to balance a checkbook. So.
It can be done. Comparison shopping really. Kids nowadays don't know how to comparison shopping.
You know, it'll be interesting. And I haven't looked at Purdue enough, but when you look at the curriculum, comparison shopping takes mostly place online.
Yeah,
Right.
The kids probably know how to do that better than you.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I don't know if there's. I know Mrs. Bites expressed. I know we were battling it out a little bit here. Would you be interested in? Do you think that's a valid proposition to investigate that?
If they think it's worthwhile using their time.
Mr. Ocasinil, do you have anything on this? We talked a lot.
I mean, I agree with you that it would be nice to have the information covered at some point during the educational process. But I'm not in a position really to say
Where.
when or how. Once again, I would echo what Ms. Bites said in that regard. Is if the administration has a solution, I would certainly be interested to hear it. But beyond that, I don't have any strong feelings.
Okay. Mr. Radka, do you have any thoughts on all the things that were just discussed, or if we want to merge them perhaps, or let the administration?
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if some of the items can be pulled out that really aren't pertinent to today, or obviously some of these things should be. I mean, let's face it, some of these things should be learned at home.
Yeah.
Whether they are or not, but I mean, maybe there's some things they can pull out and then make it a combination of nutrition and half credit.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some things in the current curriculum that can be pulled out also, since we're talking about the curriculum that probably hasn't been, that might be outdated itself, the curriculum we're using in it. Maybe some things can be pulled out.
Is there a curriculum available for the nutrition class?
Yeah, there is. And everything is about resources. It's time and resources.
Right.
We don't mind investing the time and resources into it. If that's what you guys
Well, it might be as simple as asking the two teachers who teach both these classes, what do you think is most important? What do you think is not relevant today as much as it used to be, and synthesizing what's left. All right, I think the administration has that's kind of where we want to move, and we're going to throw the ball into your court.
I do agree with Mrs. Bites. I mean, the math class, especially 11th and 12th grade, you want every teaching day possible, unless they're going to do it in like the last week of May.
That's what I was thinking, like just the last...
After SATs.
After SATs, like, hey guys, this is it. If you want to be responsible with your money, just follow these steps.
If we require it.
That was originally where I was coming from. There.
Is there a movie? Is the Fed without a movie?
What's that?
Is the Fed without a movie?
I'm sure that would be a very fun movie to watch. I bet. You have Janet Yellen up there.
Maybe it's Greenspan.
I'd rather watch Greenspan than Janet. But who was Reagan's head of the Fed? Volcker, Paul Volcker.
Yeah.
Was that under? Yeah. They have interesting. Is it a 10-year term? Never mind. We're getting off track.
Okay, so they're going to look into.
Yeah, I think the administration has heard where we're coming from here. We don't want to trade off anything that we're teaching now, but we do want to ensure that all of our students know how to do these things. Great. next up is, we've talked about this a lot, and it was spurred by something Mr. Rathke brought up, Celebrate Freedom Week. I wanted to do a little bit more research on this, and I will admit that I fell flat in not having done that. But I was thinking perhaps concurrent with Constitution Week, perhaps we could have a day discussing free markets, discussing the Bill of Rights, which is, of course, in the Constitution, and citizenship in general. We've talked about that in this committee for a while, and we threw out the idea of using the citizenship exam and giving it to our students to make sure that they, fully understood the things that the U.S. government believes that citizens should know. So it would be nice to do something there, I think. And I don't really have any ideas beyond what I just said, but I know I was wondering maybe other folks had anything. I did receive an email from, I believe he's a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, and there are some programs out there dealing with enterprise and liberalism with a lowercase l. I don't know. I think it would be very beneficial, and I think it could be helpful for our students. You see these men on the street interviews where they'll go up and they'll ask, but do you know who the Chief Justice is? And they'll have no idea. They'll say Judge Judy. Yeah. So I'd like to see something there. Perhaps we could just throw it out to the schools. Like, hey, come up with something and try to touch on these themes.
During Constitution Week?
Yeah, we already, as tied to this particular piece of the Freedom Week, we do celebrate Constitution Day in our schools in a variety of different means. But we can certainly look into, expanding upon that, in the developmentally appropriate way. Certainly it'll look different.
Okay. No rush. When you get to it.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know if you can bring something back. I want to get this off the agenda, and I'd like something a little bit more concrete than...
Well, we do Constitution Day, so that is something very directly tied.
So would you consider looking into extending it for the whole week, Constitution Week, like Connor suggested, and then hit...
I'm just so excited. I think markets are beautiful, and I think other people should share that love of markets too. But I don't know.
And I think I have a curriculum, an agenda for the school that does do it. Would you like me to send that to you?
Sure.
So, really, we're giving you guys pretty wide berth to determine what you want to do, but...
And probably wouldn't be, like, from middle school on. I don't know, we would have to hit K to 5.
I don't know. There are ways, like, when I was in 5th grade, we had the history of Pennsylvania.
None of it sticks. When I talk to those kids years later, like before they left 8th grade, none of that stuff sticks.
Okay.
Personally, I think it's a little...
Well, but on the other hand, maybe some of those larger themes, they might inform, like... Maybe. I guess we need an expert in child development to know that.
Exactly.
Anything else on that theme, or can we move on to something new?
Okay.
All right. Okay, this is next up under new business is the class size policy, and this is something that we were asked to review by the administration. Mr. Harris has requested that we give him a little bit more flexibility in these ranges. So I'm going to leave it there and let the administration make the presentation they want to make. I want to just emphasize that this is not coming from us. This is coming from the administration. This isn't a backdoor way to raise class sizes, at least as far as I see it. But on that note...
Where Mr. Harris, here's the origin of it. I think we don't want to take any of this out of context. The concern is that what we have is guidelines, and it's being treated as policy by a whole variety of different situations. So we want to, those are sound, but if we don't, Mr. Harris was talking about expanding them because people are treating it like it's rote policy rather than a guideline. Those are the guidelines, whether it's down or up one student, those are guidelines, we're right in the middle of that thing. He wants the guidelines treated like guidelines to give us the flexibility that we need to have, not so we're getting hung out because we're one up in one class or one down in one class. And that's kind of where he was coming from on that particular piece. That's why he just wanted it brought up here. Those are guidelines. If they are expanded, that certainly it makes sure that those class sizes fall within those guidelines, whether it's up or down. And these aren't uncommon. I mean, it's just anecdotally what you'll see in a typical public school system.
They're right out of state code.
Yeah, so
right
they're
I don't know why it's even in our policies.
But I mean, what he's really looking for is, I mean, those are guidelines, and we want them treated like guidelines,
right.
so that we're not up or down. Like
they're guidelines
up or down. I mean,
code,
both ways. I mean, like we're down in 19, like in one grade level, we're down one, and then in another grade level, we're up one, and that's, and I think what's frustrating Mr. Harris, and I won't speak for him on this, but is that when it's treated like it's policy, when it's really a guideline, and that's where he was coming from with that particular piece. Don't want to make it bigger or smaller thing than what it is.
I also have a few things that I'd like to see incorporated into this. I think at some point a line in the sand needs to be drawn as to when we're setting up these classes, where it'll be, because we have students moving in, we have students moving out all the time. So it's never going to be like I remember earlier this summer we sat down and we went through pretty much class by class and said we're fine with that class size, we want to add a teacher to this grade, and at the time we reviewed those, I believe all classes were within the guidelines. Now August comes around and we have classes that are above guideline and below guideline, some significantly. We can't be shuffling teachers around after school starts. So we need to make a determination, what is the date at which time the number of students we have enrolled, this is what we're going with for the upcoming year. If more students come in and we go over guideline, we're not going to bring in a teacher mid-year and split classes apart. We're not going to move kids after the first day of school to accommodate an administrative issue because we have 25 students in a class now instead of 24, or conversely, we have 17 instead of 18. So I think
that's what Mr. Early's trying to say, that they shouldn't be treated.
Well, he's saying there should be flexibility. It shouldn't be necessarily if you have 23 kids, you need a new. Yeah, so you're right there. I'm
suggesting we get rid of that whole part from our policies. I don't think it belongs in our policies.
Well, it's not in our policy.
Well, in our guidelines, yes, it's. Why do we need it? It's state code. It's redundant. When state code changes, it's incumbent upon us to change.
Well, you see,
the recommendations.
Is this in state? I don't see any attribution on here.
What's that?
I don't see any link saying it's.
Probably not because it's guidelines, but that bottom part I'm curious about because that was a change that we added.
Right.
The enrollment for that. That is.
I don't believe that these ranges are in state code at all, because if you look, they're suggested. A determination was made at the board level that these are where we would like our classes to be. And I think they've been valuable in providing the administration and the public guidance in terms of where we want our classes to be. Because every year, otherwise...
that the administration could bring at the discussion. They could always bring this into the discussion.
Right.
I know that it has to be written in our guidelines.
So the question, I guess, from this committee, the question Mrs. Bites is posing is how strict do we as a board want to hold our administration in setting up these classes, right? Do we want to give them more leeway to do it within their expertise, or do we want to pretty much say...
Another example of the board just weighing in an area that they shouldn't be.
The flip side of that is, of course, going to be the board approves the budget, and is going to likely become a budget consideration, whether out in the open or whether the administration, they're going to recognize that, hey, these are the constraints we're operating within. Now, therefore, this is how we're going to respond vis-a-vis class size.
Budget as much as running a bunch of classes less than 10. I think we've addressed that with that bottom part.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been clear. You guys want to know if the high school regular class is below there, and
that's where we
brought it forward the last 2 years since that. You guys have given us that instruction.
They make a decision that they need to throw another, teacher in. They need to come to when they come to us and make that proposal. We'll see the numbers. And we can, squeeze them if we wanted to. But I think they should be free. They know the inner workings, and they know maybe fourth grade has a history of having a lot of transients, so they're going to pad it a little bit in the beginning because they're comfortable with it.
Now,
I think the board should be weighing in on us. So.
I think this could be. Mr. Harris is looking for it. I think this board's well aware that this is a guideline, it's a goal, and it's a good goal. But yes, we understand there's going to be times when there's classes that are going to be over, and we'll try our best to accommodate that. But a lot of times it does come down to June, and when the budget's being finalized. It is what it is. So I mean, it's not a policy; it's a guideline. And, administration has classes that they feel confident that. Maybe if it was a 5th grade class, and we know that those kids are pretty. There's 27 in the class.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting the way this is framed in policy because it's contained. It is okay. So it's administrative guideline here, so it is just guidance, but it also says suggested, and that came directly from the board. So, an administration, it wouldn't be it would be wise for administration to see if the board put something into the guideline. The expectation would be to keep the board happy. You're going to do what the board wants. So it is interesting just how it's incorporated, being a suggestion, but being a suggestion that the board insisted upon enough to put into policy or a guideline. I would like to see personally this. I don't think it's appropriate necessarily for the board to go through class by class and say we want one teacher here, we don't want a teacher here, and I don't think it should be an annual spectacle each year when we do that. I think we need to trust our administration enough to they should know the entire picture.
I think that the problems we've had in the past is that there was conflicting input from the finance chairs versus there was finance on one side and the academic the budget the business office on one side and the academic office on the other side. They were kind of butting heads as to what each other wants instead of working together to come up with
well, at the end of the day, how I see it, if we're going to go down the route of kind of taking our hands off of these things and assigning them to the administration, Mr. Hurley is here for the curriculum side, Mr. Small is there on the business side. It'll be the superintendent will determine what the administrative recommendation is. And that's how really it should be. And if we don't like it, then we can do what we need to do, and we can always hold the administration accountable for what happens, and like we're going to do in regard to other issues with class sizes, whether even like looking at it, we have an issue this year with class sizes outside of these suggestions, and even though the policy is this way now. So I think that that's an intriguing thought, an idea from Mrs. Bites to just take this out completely and assess our administration
I can't
on.
right now, but I'd love the opportunity to make that argument. That's all, it's redundant. It doesn't belong enough.
The benefit, perhaps, of keeping it in this is it gives the public an opportunity to go through our policy and see this is what the board wants. Why is in my class?
My preference would be to have it. I mean, given as long as it's treated like a guideline, then I think that we should have recommendations in there. Personally, like I said, that doesn't mean that every class every year has to
be within them,
to abide by the guidelines. But I feel from like as we just suggested, from a transparency perspective, I think it's much cleaner to have it available for people who are curious what our recommended class sizes are.
Now, this, however, goes back to what we were talking about off Mrs. Bites' idea is kind of distinct and separate from what at least Mr. Harris had brought up to me. He was asking us to expand these boundaries a little bit to give the administration some more leg room, if you will, when they determine their recommendations. And I don't know, I feel like if we're going to make an adjustment on the top end, maybe we should also make one on the lower end.
I don't feel strongly that adjustments are required if, once again, we're treating it as a guideline.
Yeah.
If it's a guideline, then in those instances where we're outside the guidelines, it's not that, it shouldn't raise, it shouldn't be a 10-alarm fire just because we're outside the guidelines. As long as that's how it's being treated, then extending the range just seems superfluous. Now, if Mrs. Bites is correct that it's in the code somewhere else, if it is truly redundant, that's a different issue.
Yeah.
If it's easy for the public to get these ranges somewhere else, then I might feel differently about having them be here. But until...
Can I make a suggestion? Can I suggest we kick this down the road one more meeting and let the administration bring their recommendations for what they would like?
I think you're asking for a more convincing argument.
What's that?
A more convincing argument. Okay.
Yeah, and what would those ranges be that they want?
Yeah, and to justify, yeah, all right. I'd actually
I think he's looking for, he wants these treated as guidelines so that we're not.
What can we do to make it treated like guidelines since it is a guideline?
I think it's been used in a variety of different on all sides as different as policy.
I think it would be beneficial to have, perhaps maybe it would take the form of a presentation, I don't know, but something from our administration telling us in one voice, this is what we want, this is how we want to do it, this is why, and we'll go from there. Because right now all I have is Mr. Harris told me that it would be nice to have some flexibility, and that was how he suggested doing it, but I think we want a little bit more. Is that fair characterization? Okay, so we'll kick this a little bit, and I believe it might have to go to policy anyway. I guess it's up to the board.
I'm hoping that it would come with a recommendation from curriculum.
Right.
Policy wants, if we wanted to end up in policy, we want a recommendation from curriculum.
So this is going to come up again. All right. Next up is something I am excited to bring back. This is AP Human Geography, and I think that's right.
Automatically, all about.
No, I'm going to be a little bit blunt here and say I think one of the board's greatest failures over the past few years was voting this down 2 years back, and it was a 5-4 vote. And I'll tell you right now, the reason I'm bringing it back is because the board composition has changed, and a lot of those no votes are no longer with us. So I wanted to go through this time.
I mean, I think to be blunt, I think was voted down because there was a perception of was the curriculum too liberal.
Right.
But I don't know if I would. Yeah, I thought it was unfairly treated.
Yes. I agree.
As are many of the issues on this board.
That was my perception sitting out there as well.
Yeah.
I think even global warming came into the
It did.
So, can we see the curriculum then?
Mr. Hurley has packets for us. And I think, again, looking at all of our students, and this is an AP course that it's the only one offered to 9th graders. And if you're going to be taking the AP curriculum at Daniel Boone High School, this is an opportunity to take a course where you're not trading one off. It's not this course versus another. It's just an additional one they can add on if they're interested. So I think our administration was eager to bring this back, too.
Did Mr. McKnight say earlier that that's not the case? That every time we add a class?
I think we're going to have to, I mean, joking aside, I think in order to run a course, and we should do this, but in my opinion, I 100% recommend this, because if we want kids to get into elite colleges, we need to have AP courses in college. Right. But we would have to, they'd have to take this in place of their social studies course in 9th grade that they currently have, or another alternative. Otherwise, we end up increasing staff to do this. So, and I think that's what Mr. McKnight was alluding to, because we're going to have, let's say we run 2 periods of this.
You can only teach so many classes.
Right.
If we run 2 periods of this, that's what you're kind of going to get. Roughly, just so you know, and I did a little bit of prelim work here, just so you're aware. If we run an AP course, from a cost perspective, you're going to look, the textbooks are expensive. They're not going to mix any words. They're going to be about $180 each. So if you run, say you need 60 textbooks, there will be some expense there. There will be a little bit of an expense in terms of training the teacher. You want to do that so the kids are successful in the AP exam. That's very important to train the teacher. That's a mistake sometimes people make with AP courses. But the benefit on something like this, and it's very consistent with his Pathways model and the capstone approach that Mr. McKnight has put forward. It was in his capstone proposal also. I mean, this is just good stuff, guys. Overall, if we can do this, it's very beneficial for our kids. It's also, if you look at the grade, if you do this in 9th grade, it's an opportunity for a kid to get an AP course young. And I think when you look from let's talk about I think you want to challenge as many kids as you can to take AP courses. It's an opportunity for students to be successful on the AP course, not be afraid of college level work. All those things I think may help increase our AP enrollment in future classes if they have success here.
Is this the correct recollection? Is there no AP exam for this class?
There's an AP exam for this class.
Okay.
my understanding, and I'll refer to
Or a lot of
Russ because he's
perhaps
actually
it
done
was
this
that a
before.
bunch of colleges
It's
don't
not a hard.
accept it.
It's not a. It's one of the easier AP out of the whole
Right.
thing, which encourages kids to take them when we want kids.
I
to
understand that, and I agree that. I mean, I remember from the original presentation that was one of the factors in favor of this was that we might get some kids who ordinarily wouldn't take AP classes to try, and that you could use it as a
gateway drug.
Exactly, and so that's great. Maybe what I recall hearing is that a whole bunch of colleges don't accept the credit, but
If I can, I'll provide some clarification. If you go into our course catalog, you can actually, there's a link, we built a link into the course catalog. You can put any AP course in any college to see if they take it and if it needs a 3, 4, or 5. So you can know exactly which schools will take it. So folks take this. This is usually traded off for a geography course that almost everybody has to take in college, at least one. So yeah, it's to Tyler's point is it is a gateway course. It is the first course that launches students in. If they have success in 9th grade with one, they're likely to take another in 10th, maybe 2, and 2 or 3 in 11th, then it begins to, there's a whole host of financial benefits for parents and competitive entrance benefits to students.
I'm not sure. I'd like to get this moving and give the administration the green light as quickly as possible, quite honestly, to start planning for next year. I don't want to do what we did last year, where we pour over this, and there might be disagreements, the same ones among the board members who disagreed with it last time around.
Can we have a meeting at least to review it?
I'm fine. Yeah, I think that's fine.
I like the way it fits into the pathways. I do can see that it makes more sense now that we're working towards those pathways. But I would just like to refresh my memory on
Right.
what the intentions were.
The additional, it says school provides a collection of maps, atlases, and other resource materials.
We'll be able to handle that piece of it internally.
Mapping
We have lots of
software.
It does sound
Google Maps.
expensive. Versus like
Where's the money coming from? Mrs. Vice wants to know.
We will have to put that as part of our budget, the textbook order for this. That's where the major expense would be for the number.
Do we have to, I'm thinking, like, if we have to replace the high school 9th grade geography textbooks anyway, well, then we just cut that order by however many we're going to put.
There's AP textbooks that we ordered each year,
I don't really know.
What you want to about.
unless they revise it.
What's that?
Until they revise it.
Right. When are we scheduled to replace the 9th grade geography textbooks? Or have we already done that?
Well, it's not a geography course in 9th grade, but yeah.
World cultures.
We're looking at the curriculum for social studies. It's one of the things we're doing our preliminary work on that.
So we're going to, correct me if I'm
within
wrong,
the next year or two, depending on when we get this done, guys.
we're going to be replacing those books anyway.
In the near future,
Okay.
we will have a book order for that course, and we'll have to produce what we'll end up
Good.
doing is, if this course comes online, hopefully we get a good enrollment in this course, and then it'll end up reducing the number
So
of
this is a good time to do this, you're saying?
If we're going to do it, I think it's a great time to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have been better to do it last year, but some people disagreed.
We'll take it.
All right. Anything else on this? We'll talk about it next meeting. I'd like, if possible, to move it at the next meeting if we're comfortable. All right, then. Moving on to the computer science curriculum. This is something that Mr. Hurley requested we discuss.
Yeah, guys, I'd like to get the computer. Mr. Simmons is the author of this curriculum himself. He teaches the computer science courses at the high school. I sent out an email to you guys, the copy of the curriculum. There was a top page that was a curriculum summary, so you have that. Gives you an overview of what's being taught. The curriculum was outdated, and that's a problem in the computer science class. This is a programming course; it's not an applications course. They were using Visual Studio had changed. We were so old on that, and we had to update there. So we had to update this in order to continue to run the course successfully. So this was we did this one because we need to do this right now, and so that's kind of where we're at. You can see what it is. I'd like to. It's a project-oriented course. Like I said, it's a program. We only have one teacher for the course itself. right now, and I wanted to pass this out to you guys, and if you guys could give me a rubber stamp to move forward in it. It's pretty thorough, as you can say.
I think it's very impressive. I was a comp sci major, well, actually computer management major. I think it's a very impressive course.
I did have a question on it, and this is probably largely academic because I don't see us having the infrastructure to do this, either in staff or in computer technology. I know, at least for myself, and I'm sure for others my age, there'd be an interest in learning how to make apps for mobile phones, for Android, for iPhone. Is there any way that we could do that perhaps in the future? Perhaps a course like this could contain an introduction to app making.
I can tell you
they're
that,
using C++ for apps.
yeah, and I can tell you another piece too, and it is introduced a little bit. There is a National Coding Week, and our computer application class takes some of the more advanced students. I do know that she does a little bit of coding with them ad hoc, and you're going to get that in the computer app class because you have kids all over the place, some kids who are well advanced, and so she differentiates for some of our top learners in that way. And certainly there's programming language in this curriculum you can see there also.
I had a thought earlier, and I believe I shared this with Mr. Okus O'Neill today, that, like, what if we had, because it's a new industry. Well, it's not a new industry, but it's a burgeoning industry. It's a growing industry, this programming and app making, and it's a lucrative industry at that. But so many of these skills are skills that it's like a foreign language. You need to learn it and build upon it and build upon it and build upon it. And perhaps the students who take computer science at high school, they can do that in their college careers. But what if we were to introduce programming at a younger age? Perhaps, I don't know, in the middle school, or for a group of students who's truly interested in it. It wouldn't be for every student, but if you have some kids who know, hey, I want to be a programmer, if we could begin building those skills earlier on in their school careers. Now, again, this is a long-term thing I'm looking at. This isn't something we could flip a switch and do, because we need to make sure that we have the capabilities in staffing and materials, but it sure would be something, and it would...
There's definitely an interest level, and you see it just in some of our groups, like our TSA groups, and the amount of students we want involved in that type of activity. Clearly, I mean, like I said, I've seen it actually at the middle school, like in the Coding Week, National Coding Day, or whatever it's called. There's kids who have an interest and aptitude for this type of work. And your analogy is actually interesting. I've read that in some of the things that I've read in terms of it being a new foreign language. Coding is a new foreign language. So now it's certainly something we need to look at in the long term, in terms of we're serious about preparing our students for the future. There's certainly a segment of our students that are very interested and have the aptitude to do stuff like this.
Yeah, that's something about public education. The world changes so quickly, and we don't. And maybe there's some benefit in that, but I think the middle ground is where we need to be.
I just wanted to correct the record. It's not C++ I've been using, it's Java, and there are other writing software specifically for writing apps out there. But I would like to put it out there that once you pick up one language, you have an aptitude to pick up others anyway, so there would be nothing lost in that, teaching the C++ and Visual Basic. But on the curriculum writing end of this, didn't the committee talk about actually having a sign-off sheet? So of not just the summary, but of who were the contributors to it. Would
That's
this be a
still
good time to start it?
A work in progress. Okay. Mr. Hurley has a proposal that he sent to me. I didn't want to include it. But yeah.
Right. I just didn't want that to drop if this is a good time.
It's still coming.
Actually collect comments from the curriculum writers where they say, I think we did well. If we ever do this again, I would have liked to see this, and this covered. Just, honest evaluation of their, which is what they do on the national level when they wrote the Common Core standards. The reviewers actually got to comment on them, whether they thought they were strong, and you get to read the reviewers' comments. And I'd like to see this delivered that way if it's practical.
This was what you were looking for in terms of the course summary, though.
Right. No, I just meant the individual people, the writers, and the people who review it. I'm not sure if that's the process here or not. But, where they actually weigh in and say, out of a scale of 8 to 10, this curriculum's a home run, or it's an 8, it's a little bit short on this, that, and recognizing that, from the interest of time or whatever, we had to move forward. If it ever gets written again, I think this, and this should be covered. And you might have another reviewer that doesn't feel that way, but at least the board would be able to see those comments.
Okay.
So
we'll
eventually. Thank you.
If we can incorporate that into the sheet somehow.
No problem. Not a problem.
All right. Anything else in the computer science curriculum? Are we fine with how it was presented to us?
Yes.
Okay, so
Very much. Thank you, Mr. Hurley.
we're advancing that then,
Really
I guess.
thorough.
Is that something the full board must approve? I think so. I think curriculum is something the board...
And there's really no cost on that except some materials, because it's just the new
This year,
rewrite classes that are already
this is not
offered.
going to cost us any more money than we are already.
Good.
We're fine. on
It's
this.
online
Yeah,
stuff.
Okay.
it's a programming
Thank
cost.
you.
We're fine. We have
Excellent.
it.
I'm comforted to know that we're getting some curriculum up to date.
All right. Let's move on then. We're moving right along. This is my topic, Honors 2.1 Framework Pilot. And I called it this for a reason, and that's because last year I proposed a new way of doing things that would condense some classes and also expand pretty much every class into an honors class. And before we were able to discuss it, the rumor mill started churning that they're looking to eliminate honors, they're looking to eliminate AP, they're looking to do XYZ, before even the presentation was really made. So I've learned from that, and I want to do a test, and I've spoken with Mr. McKnight about this. We're not going to eliminate anything. Instead, we're going to add something, if this works out the way I'd like it to, only for encore classes. And I want to try it with art. My idea is you have one course taught by one teacher, and it's your standard course that's always been taught, your Art 1 course. And my thought is, if you have a student who wants to become a graphic designer, a student who wants to pursue a career in art, a student whose passion is art, a student who excels in these courses, if there's a way for that student to harness their passion and harness their energy and go above and beyond what's expected of an academic course offering and do the work expected of an honors course or an honors student, then I think we should reflect that superior achievement on the student's transcript. So I'm suggesting that we pilot this, and ideally, if it works out, I'd like to expand it to all encore courses, those courses where we don't have honors, academic, fundamental, accelerated. And that way, if you have a student who's very interested in tech enterprises, they could take the tech course and they can do a capstone project, which would be determined by the department and the teacher, and it would be a valid indicator that they have mastered the material above and beyond what was expected of their peers. And we would then indicate on their transcript that they did not just take tech enterprises, they took honors tech enterprises.
And it gets weighted in their GPA.
And it would be weighted in their GPA. And it wouldn't be a burden upon the staff. We wouldn't be asking them to do extra work. This would just be another project, like any other project to correct. But it's on the student. And if the student wants the extra achievement noted, then the student, it's on them to pursue it. So I think this is a way that we can become more competitive with those top schools, and I think it's a way we could transfer ownership onto those students while allowing them to pursue more superior academic ends. So Mr. McKnight, we've spoken about this offline. If you'd like to speak to this at all.
Just a couple pieces. So, we had this conversation, and I did present this idea to the art department. And one of the things that they're interested in is how do they differentiate or encourage students who are really art-oriented, kids who actually end up in our CAPA pathway, performing arts pathway. How do we encourage those kids to take greater programming? And how do we differentiate when they're taking, for example, color and design, which is the entry-level 9th grade course, Art 1, which is the basic level course. So they have interest in it, and that's kind of where we're at with it. We talked about it would be essentially a project that the student and the teacher would come up with, and then Connor kind of illustrated what it would be. This would lead students who are passionate in a given area to take ownership of it and run it and pay more. And we reward that. And so I think the real value is not only to make it competitive in the school. I'm always interested because it differentiates students to get into the opportunities they want to get into down the road. And so if you're a student in more work and honors work and you embrace the content at a richer level, then you're going to differentiate yourself and move.
And I think this is an opportunity for our staff and our departments to really explore, and they will be the determiners of what works for art may not work for
that's
finance.
So did you say that the add-on piece would be a project that runs the whole?
Yeah, the capstone project. So in a lot of major, pathway courses, you have a capstone project, a culminating project you do to present your skill set. It brings together all the things that you've learned in a final presentation techniques. And so if the students were to do that, then we receive a level of an honors designation. You get honors, Art 1 honors, and then we get the weighting and reflect that in their transcript.
So that's the box that this would all, the language that this whole idea would fit into, then the capstone project, whether there's a capstone project available for the course or not.
So they would be in the regular class, but so
when they're free, they would.
Yeah. So I mean, would they be in the art room after school? Would they be before school?
No, I don't think
how they accomplish.
I think a lot of work like this, once you have a project and someone gives you a project based to go do, the teacher gives you an assignment, you go and you run with it, you come back and they give you feedback and back and forth you go. The instruction would be as it is in a regular class, but for that student and as a teacher, you all can remember a handful of students that we had that loved our content area and they were always around willing to do more. And this is a way to engage that and learn upon that and recognize that for students. And then I think where the art teachers have interest is it continues to grow their program. As students will go down to R2 and 3 and 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional.
And then theoretically, fundamentally, at the end of the course then, if the capstone project is not up to snuff, they just get the regular weighting.
Right.
They just get the nothing lost, nothing ventured, nothing gained. They just don't get the higher.
People articulate they want to do a capstone project, then all of a sudden they get too busy, they didn't want to do it.
Right. No great loss there. They still, their fallback is the regular ed class. I like it. I like that idea.
So we're not, just to state again, we're not eliminating anything. We're not condensing AP and honors or honors and academic. We are just giving students an opportunity to add on a piece if they would like to and if they pursue it on their own. And I think it's pretty innovative.
It would be offered to everyone.
It's available to anyone.
Completes it and hands it in at the end of the course. Gets
and it is important to say that we're not, I don't want this to diminish the value of the setup that we have for Honors English, for example, where we have the strata that somebody, where you fit into. But
it's a nice fit in the on-course program. This concept kind of got noodled around and kicked around and looks like a nice place to even consider piloting it. The on-course places are the place to pilot it.
Great.
That's where kids most often express their passion.
Thank you so much for bringing that to us.
In music or art. This happens to art teachers.
now,
Let's try it.
I set this up, I put this on the agenda as a pilot so we could try it. And having spoken with Mr. McKnight, we determined that there might be a way to do it this year.
Yeah, I mean, because in the end, it's a culminating project, so you would
So
have,
why not? Yeah.
This would be something that would unfold probably for a student in beginning in April, to have enough instruction to engage their project and culminate. So.
And the art department is kind of.
Yeah, I mean, we're actually having a meeting this week. I'm meeting with them, continue this conversation. I think that has to be fleshed out. I'm sure, there's the devil's in the details. There's more work to be done. It's really at its infancy in concept.
Please express our gratitude for that.
Yeah. Could we, I'm trying to figure out the best way to move forward here. I wouldn't want to push a pilot necessarily off until next year when we can begin to do it correctly this year.
But even if the project isn't as robust as it might be the following year.
And maybe I would be thankful and grateful if we could authorize the administration to do it for art this year. And then they can test it out, see the details, and if we decide we want to move forward next year, we can add, we can
bring us the cost of retroactively, sort of.
I
imagine it's not going to be.
You may only get 2 or 3 students.
Right.
But for those 2 or 3 students, it may be very worth it. Is there?
I would love to see it move forward, and I would give I agree that we should give the administration leeway for that as long as it's not an extreme cost.
Is there objection to
Are you okay with that?
putting this on?
Well, I just want to make sure that you had a conversation with you about this.
But with whom? Oh. Well, as long as the staff won't be expected to do more work if it's on the student, but we'll leave that to the administration to work out. But
Thank you, sir. That's good.
so I think we'll move that on then to the board with the pilot program at least. All right, good. Thank you. I'm glad we're able to try something new, and I'm personally satisfied because this is a component of 2.0 that I proposed.
Don't gloat. Let's go.
Yeah, all right.
Move on.
Last item on the agenda, Foreign Language Survey and DBASD Foreign Language Working Group. Now, I'd like to just hit the first half of this item before moving on to the second. And Mr. Hurley, I know you mentioned that there was a survey that was sent out.
It's actually, and Mrs. Rexford, it's coming up at her parents' meeting. Her parents' meeting coming up. That's when tomorrow Wednesday. Okay, she's doing that. That's going out to the parents. So we should have some data for the next meeting itself.
So we're going to be receiving that data then. And what's the survey? What is the aim of the survey? The objective?
Okay, it was the aim of the survey was to determine if there's an interest in offering more foreign languages, what foreign languages parents would like to see in the middle school, and I think the other thing was what grade they would like that to be offered.
Okay. Do you mind if, okay,
Thank you. Great.
I'm proposing something a little bit bigger. I think we talk about foreign language a lot at the board level, and we don't really know, we don't have a district goal. We don't know why do we offer foreign language in Daniel Boone is my question. And I know it's valuable, and I know we should offer it, but I want to know what is our objective. Do we want our students at 12th grade to be fluent in the foreign languages we offer, or are we more trying to offer a cultural approach to language? On top of that, what languages should we offer? We currently offer at the high school Spanish, French, and German, and we're adding this new Chinese course at the middle school. And I think it would be beneficial for the entire district if we had, if we articulated a series of objectives that we would like to achieve with our foreign language program. Not just at the high school, not just at the middle school, but K to 12. And maybe that includes foreign language at the elementary level. There's a lot of questions here that I think we should delve into. So I'm proposing that we set up a committee essentially, a whole district committee, including faculty from the department, including administrators. I don't know what the composition would look like necessarily, but maybe a board member, a representative from the public. I'd insist that a recent college graduate who took foreign language in college be on the committee. But to look at how we approach foreign language as a district and where we want to go and what would benefit, what makes sense now. Instead of plugging in a program here, taking away a program there, let's do something that makes sense comprehensively. I think this is the way I envision it would be a year-long process, really, and at the end of the meeting time and after the end of the year, this committee would put together a report and some recommendations for us to peruse and to enact if we like them and to.
It's feasible.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe they meet once a month, and it's people who are interested in this. And when you have a bunch of people who are interested in the topic, I think you probably get better results than just some people who are
middle school families and high school families.
I'm ahead of you on this a little bit, Connor. We almost have the committee together. We have a parent representative. I have 3 administrators on this committee, and I have the department chair from the high school who's going to be on the committee. They've already committed to it. If we'd like, I think the next logical member of the committee, if we could get a board member, it would be wonderful.
I think we should also have a student at the high school level. And I think if we could have a recent college graduate, I think we should. I think they offer valuable insight into these things.
But I don't want it to be bigger than I think.
I think they bring a lot to the table. And if this administration could choose whom they want, that's my view at least. I don't know how others feel. But I want something that would work, and I'd like to see where we're going on foreign language, and if we need to invest more resources into it.
And get everyone together.
Yeah, and also to look at scholarship and the correct pedagogical approach to these things. There's a lot to look into that I feel like if we wanted to reflect on this for an entire year on the curriculum committee, we could, and we still might not end up
Do you think
anywhere.
we should expand that survey then? I'm assuming the survey was just for middle school families.
I don't think we should do that. I think we should let the committee do it.
This is going to be the foundation of the committee. I mean, this will be good feedback. Which languages do our families want? Which grades do they want them taught at? This is relevant information to to start
Right.
discussion. And
I think that's helpful. I think it'll be helpful for the committee, that
Should we
information.
expand it to our high school families?
I don't think so. I think what we should do, if the committee decides that's the approach they want to follow, then they should. But they might also want more
Yeah,
information.
They should.
Yeah, there could be
They
other
should
pieces of
consider it.
data.
Because you're saying get students, you can get every student's opinion
Right.
in the high school with a good survey.
Yeah.
What do they? What do now? You're approaching graduation. What do you wish you had done?
Right.
I think it's valuable information to be had. They're out there doing the college searches, and they're going to say, "Too bad Boone didn't give me blah blah blah."
Yeah.
We
So
won't know that unless we survey them.
I don't know if there needs to be official board action taken to conduct this
Right.
form this group, but if the administration wants to, I'd say yeah.
I would really encourage you.
We'll
to
expand
like
it. We'll
the
expand
idea.
it and get some more data for you.
Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Boone.
Yeah, and I think
it's a great idea.
I think it would be valuable
Get
for
us
you,
a district mission.
right,
for
to put that
language.
committee together and
Language.
yeah. But please heed or take into consideration some of the suggestions, at least that I threw out about membership, and if we can put a student on, I think that would be helpful. And especially as somebody who took foreign language courses in high school, in college, they are different, and I think a lot of students who pursue liberal arts tracks, they have to do that as well. So if we can set our students up for success there.
Mr. Early, you said you've got about 5 people already interested
Yes,
in this?
absolutely.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
And importantly, it's going to include, like you said, you've already spoken to the foreign language department about this, and we're not talking about necessarily cutting at all, but if it doesn't make sense to offer French, maybe we should offer Chinese instead. Like, that's all in the purview of the committee.
Yep. Agreed.
So that was what I had there. Any other feedback on that? Anything else from the committee?
I just had a couple quick things. How is the subservice working out, Mr. Hurley?
It's still too early. I don't want to make a
Okay,
judgment.
okay.
It's so early. And we've
Yeah,
only had 4
you're
days
right,
of
you're
school.
right.
I wouldn't.
Thank you.
I'd like to chime in, though.
Yeah.
Today I went and toured, along with Mr. Rathgeb and Mr. Okus O'Neill, Amity Elementary Center. And we met a substitute who was brought in through this service, and I was thrilled to learn that she was my 4th grade math teacher.
Yeah.
So we have a former Daniel Boone teacher now working as a substitute through the subservice. So again, that's only one example. It's the only one I know, but she was a great math teacher, and I'm glad she's back.
Good.
I did want to I don't know. I spoke to Mr. Hurley about this, but I wasn't aware of it when we signed the agreement. So with the aides, we're also providing aides to the district, and because an aide actually came up to me and said, in the past, if they wanted to work extra, the principal said, "Hey, I need you to cover for another aide called out." They could do it at the same rate. Well, now they have to go through the subservice to do it, and they're getting paid $9.
We get paid whatever the rate is for that job.
So instead of getting paid the $13, $14 an hour that they would, they have to. So I asked how many people actually signed up for that, because the person I know said, if I'm going to get paid $9.40, why would I want to bother?
Well, other people might be interested. If we can fill those positions at that rate, and the market's going to bear that.
But it's the shortage that we're addressing.
Right.
It's this statewide shortage.
It seemed to me, though, if you have the aide that's already there working part-time, and someone calls out and the principal goes, "Hey, could you stay? Or could you come early?"
Yeah.
And
We
then
have
aide's
to go
already.
through the subservice now? Is that what you're saying? All aides, aide vacancies have to be
Yes.
filled through the subservice?
Is there a way that we could work with that provider to give us some more flexibility for that? Because if we're having that issue, maybe other schools are too.
It's contracted.
So I just
Well,
thought-
that's what I'm saying, for future discussions and negotiations with them.
Yeah, that's a good
I know when we did, that never came up
Yeah.
when we did the contract.
We need to look at that. Let's remember to revisit that.
Did you have other items, Mrs. Bites?
I guess there's no movement on the Coral Reef project or anything to report.
I'm sorry.
The Coral Reef project, anything exciting you want to share
Nothing.
with us?
I got an email from Mr. Harwood today, and I haven't read through it
That's
yet.
fine,
And
that's
it
fine.
actually was
It's
nothing, so
early.
I'm just
Next
not
meeting.
up to speed on it yet. So.
And then the other one's for you, Mr. Chairman. We will be scheduling our high school state of the
Yes.
schools and middle schools this year.
Yeah, let me give you guys an overview of where we're going on that. Next month, I spoke with Mr. McKnight, and with the start of school, we wanted to push it back, not have it at this meeting, but
Sure.
next meeting. So the thought moving forward is that the high school would present annually in October, the middle school would present in November, and then we'd have presentations from our elementary schools in December.
So
Right.
great. I love it. And that'll be on the calendar, the
And-
district calendar. So
Yeah, I believe it's on the
it
tickler
supersedes our
file.
existence.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Public comment on curriculum and instruction? All right. Seeing none, meeting adjourned at 7:20 p.m.